Let's do it. Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages. If you follow basketball, you know Chilltown Hoops.
So this is really good right here. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls all over the world. Y'all know what time it is when y'all see me. It is Chilltown Hoops is in the house. And I want to discuss the league MVP, right? And the reason why I want to discuss the league MVP, because that's what's going on right now, right? That's what's going on right now. And I look at the landscape of, I look at the landscape of the league right now, and it's in a great place. We got great talent. We got great games. We got great teams. All of this stuff matters. With that being said, right? With that being said, I want to start this conversation. I want to start this conversation by saying the league MVP matters. And the reason why I'm going to say that the league MVP matters is off the strength that the guys in the past, how it validates them. I saw Jordan walk up to the podium in 1991, tearing up when he won the league MVP. I heard Jordan when he was asked, yo, what was your biggest motivation in 1993? I was a little upset that Charles Barkley won the league MVP over me. I was a little upset over that. I saw Dennis Rodman walk up to the podium in tears, when it was announced he was the defensive player of the year, and him saying how bad he wanted to win it. I saw Lajuan bring his whole crew over when he won the league MVP in 94. I heard Clyde Drexler say to Lajuan when David Robinson won the league MVP, that's your award. That's yours. That is yours. And he goes, that's okay. We're going to get to the bottom of that. And he was not happy about not winning it. I heard Dwight Howard say he should have won 4 defensive players of the year in a row. When Giannis won the league MVP, before when they got rid of the presentation at games, and he won the league MVP and was in tears, thanking his family. This stuff is validation to these guys. They care about it. You might not necessarily care about it as much, but these guys care about it. So with that being said, who are the candidates for league MVP today? Who are they? So I'm looking at what the standings are, because with me, I've always felt like more than anything, despite how good you are, right? Despite how good you are, I care about winning. What up, Eric? I care about winning. Winning matters to me. You're not selling me that a guy who's on a 7th place team is more valuable to his team's success than a dude who's on a 3rd place team or a dude who's on a 2nd place team. Nah, you ain't selling me that one. It's not happening. No. Just because you are arguably a better player and you might be better at specific things, that doesn't mean that you're the league MVP. Even though the best player in the league has won the league MVP in the past. The problem is over the last 10, 15, even almost 20 years, there have been a handful of guys who've been the best player in the league. There have been a handful of guys who've been the best player in the league that have won the league MVP. The 23-24 winner, which was Joker. I think Joker's the best player in the league. In 23, Embiid won it. I don't think Embiid was the best player in the league. In 22, Joker won it. There was some of you guys in 2022 telling me KD was the best player in the league, telling me James Harden was the best player in the league, telling me James was still the best player in the league. Leonard, Curry was the best player in the league. I personally didn't think Joker was the best player in the league. In 21, there was some of you telling me that Giannis was the best player in the league. In 22, you were telling me Giannis was the best player in the league. In the in the 2019-2020 season when Giannis won the league MVP. I think James was the best player in the world. Still at that point. I still think he was the best player on the planet. And then going into the 2019-2020 season, there was rumblings that Kawhi Leonard was the best player in the world. And he had outplayed Giannis in the playoffs the previous year and won the NBA championship. So there was some of you that were telling me that was going on in 2019. I don't think Giannis was the best player in the league. There were people who were talking about James Harden. I don't think Giannis was the best player in the league. I still think it was James. In 2020 and 2018, by show of hands, how many of you think James Harden was the best player in the league in 2018? How many of you think James Harden in 2018 was the best player in the league? Because I think it was James, as in LeBron James. That's who I think the best player in the league was. In 17, by show of hands, how many of you think Russell Westbrook was the best player in the league? How many of you think that? By show of hands. Over the last 25 years, right? Over the last 25 years, Shaq, Bryant, Shaq, Duncan, Bryant, James, and Jokic. Those are the only 5 guys, right? Those are the only 5 guys I can say over the last 25 years that I can say definitively. That I can definitively say that's the best player in the league. In the 1999-2000 season, Shaq, that's the best player on the planet right there. That's the best player in the world right there. In 2002, 2003, when Duncan won the league MVP, I was like, that's the best player in the world right there. Now remember what the criteria is when you're talking about being the league MVP and being the best player in the world. Because like I just told you, over the last 25 years, 5 guys, in my estimation, have been the league MVP and have been the best player in the world. 5 of them. I don't think Curry was the best player in the world in 2015, 2016. I don't think so. Because James put an end to that in the finals. In 2015, 2016, I think James put an end to that. Hey, Kenny, how are you, dear? I think James put an end to that. James shut the door on that. Even and between him and James, right? Between him and James, there was a conversation throughout the course of the year because of the kind of season that Curry was having. Yes. Because of the kind of season that Curry was having, there was a real conversation. James put an end to that in 2016. Shut the door on that. We're done with that conversation. That was the end of that. Now, Shaq in 1999-2000, best player in the world. Duncan won the league MVP the year before that in 2002, even though there's some people who thought Jason Kidd should have won it. And even if Jason Kidd would have won it, is there anybody who is there anybody who can honestly say Jason Kidd was the best player in the world? Because I'm not one of those people. I don't think now, if you want to tell me Jason Kidd in 2002 was the best point guard in the NBA, you will get no pushback from me because I think he was the best lead guard in the game. 100% I believe that. He was the best lead guard in the game, no question. In 2003, so Duncan wins the league MVP in back-to-back seasons, right? He wins the league MVP in back-to-back seasons. They win the NBA championship. He's a top 5 defensive player of the year candidate. And he wins the finals MVP. That's the best player on the planet right there. I think that's the best player in the world right there. And I don't like to waste a lot of time. So I get right to the super chats. So my man Lee Mack has said to me, he said, I've heard it said that Embiid had a similar career path to Ewing. I used to think so. I used to think so too. But since Embiid is so injury prone these past few years, I might change my mind. What do you think? 100%. 100%. I thought that he could be one of those guys. But in terms of his career path, I think that he was going to be one of those guys like Ewing that could get to the championship. But I thought he was actually good enough as a player in terms of talent. I thought he was good enough to take his team there and win it, like Olajuwon did. I thought he was that good. But in terms of his career path, yeah, I can get with the kind of player that he was. Like a lot of people don't talk about Ewing, how dominant he was, how good he was. Ewing had a money mid-range game. In 1992, I mean, I can make a legit argument that Patrick Ewing could have been the league MVP, even though Jordan was the best player in the game. And I don't think it was a question of whether or not Jay was the best player in the game. But like I just said, we had the best player in the league. We got the best player in the world. But that doesn't always translate to the league MVP, even though sometimes it does. And Ewing was in the conversation for league MVP in 1992. He was in the top 5 in the league in scoring. I think he was in the top 3 in the league in scoring that year. He was in the top 5 in the league in rebounding. He was in the top 3 in the league in blocks. And he was doing it with, and I'm going to run this down to you real quick. He was doing this with John Starks, undrafted, Anthony Mason, undrafted, Charles Oakley, second-round pick. These are the guys he's running around with. Gerald Wilkins. I think Gerald Wilkins was a second-round pick. Mark Jackson, Charles Smith. These are the guys Ewing is running around with. In a nightmare of an Eastern Conference, by the way. So as far as Joel Embiid, his career path being similar to Ewing, I have to understand what exactly you mean when you say what his career path would have been. Because are you asking me would he have just been one of those guys who never won had he not gotten injured? Because I don't think that's the case. But I do think that he was on a similar path in terms of a player. Just a better version. Winning the league MVP. I think he could have taken his team from a talent standpoint to the NBA championship. I do think that he was that good. I do believe that. Right? That I do believe. So with that being said, right? With that being said, the league MVP, when I'm talking about the best player in the game, it's only 5 of them. Right? In my estimation, only 5 guys in the last 25 years have been, in my estimation, the best player in the league. With that being said, the other 20 guys, right? The other 20 guys, I'm thinking to myself, all right, well, how close were they to being the best player in the world? I don't think Steve Nash was close to being the best player in the world. However, to win the league MVP in back-to-back season, what that does is that solidifies you as one of the best. That's who I think Steve Nash was. And I got another super chat from Lee Mack where he says, a star who plays similar could go far, but unfortunately couldn't win it. And my rebuttal to that is I think he was on a similar path with Ewing in terms of dominance. I think he was on a similar path with Ewing in terms of his game, but I do think that he could have won it. I do. I do think that from a talent standpoint, he was good enough to take his team to the NBA championship and win it, like Olajuwon did. I felt like he was that good. I just didn't realize he was made of glass. That was the difference. That right there is the difference. But, like I was saying, of those other guys, do you necessarily have to be the best player? Do you have to be the best player in the world? No doubt, Lee. Do you have to be the best player in the world to win the league MVP? I don't think you have to be the best player in the world, but you could be playing. You could be playing like that. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're better than said player. That doesn't mean that. What it does mean is playing at that level. It does mean that you are playing at that level. You're not necessarily, I don't think that you're better than this player. Like, for example, I didn't think Charles Barkley was better than Jordan. I did not. I did not think that David Robinson was better than Olajuwon. I did not think that. No. I didn't think Steve Nash was better than Bryant. No, I didn't. But was he playing at that? Was he playing at that level? At that level of being one of the best players in the league? When you win the league MVP in back-to-back seasons, you solidify yourself that it wasn't a fluke. Excuse me. You solidify yourself in that aspect that what I just did wasn't a fluke because I did it again. And he did it again with lesser talent. With lesser talent. So if I think about what's going on in today's league MVP race, I mean, I can give you the numbers for Joker. I mean, what is he? I think he's 30, 13, and 9.9. That's a triple double. That's 30, 10. That's 30, 13, and 10. That's going on. That's happening. If we're being honest, sure. On ridiculous efficiency, right? On ridiculous efficiency, and not just on ridiculous efficiency, it's translating to winning. Denver as of today. I think Denver's a game and a half out the 2 spot. And you guys know how I feel about winning. I care about this stuff. And Denver is a game and a half. I'm sorry, they 2 games out the 2 spot. 2 games out the 2 spot. With them being 2 games out, with them being 2 games out the 2 spot, I think that strengthens his case. If they got their strength of schedule coming up, like these next 10 games right before the All-Star break, they can make up some ground. They can make up some ground. And I think that they play, if I'm not mistaken, and you guys can straighten me out with this, but I think that they play but the other parts of their schedule, they got some sub 500 teams that they go up against. So with that being said, they can make up some ground. And if Joker ends up with a top 3 seed or a top 2 seed, this conversation gets even louder. However, what SGA is doing, I mean, this Oklahoma City team, I think they're on pace to win 70 games this year. That's where they are right now. They're on pace to win 70 games. If they win 70 games and he keeps doing what he's doing, I think he wins the league MVP going away. As good as Joker is, and as good as Joker has been, and this is one of the, and this, in my estimation, because I know how the voters, look at wins. And I think this is one of the closest MVP races that I've ever seen, in my estimation. This is one of the closest MVP races that I've ever seen. With SGA, Joker, and Giannis, whom I'm going to talk about Giannis in a little bit. But I got a super chat from Out of Pocket. Out of Pocket says, Joker has 5 teammates averaging 10, 6 if you count Strawther, yet Denver's in 4th. SGA has 3 teammates averaging 10, 4 if you count Dort, yet they're number 1. If Joker wins, PER is officially the key to MVP. Now, remember what we're talking about here. Joker's got 5 teammates averaging 10. A lot of that has to do with Joker. Aaron Gordon being a double-digit guy, that's got a lot to do with Joker. MPJ being a double-digit guy, a lot of that stuff has to do with Joker because, again, we're talking about a guy who the offense is ran through. There's a difference between running the offense through a guy and being a primary ball handler. The offense is ran through Joker. And for those of you who want to see Joker be more aggressive as a scorer, I mean, he's averaging 30 a game. Like, what do you want him to average, 40? You want him to be more of a one-on-one player? That's not Joker's game. Joker gets his within the flow of what everybody else is doing, and we have to get to the bottom. You guys have to understand this. We got to get to the bottom of why they are so good. They're so good because that unit is built around Joker's skill set. Joker's a great passer. They got a long ball shooter in MPJ. Joker's a great passer. They got a great slasher and pick and dive guy in Aaron Gordon. A great lob threat at the rim in Aaron Gordon. These are the kind of things that are built around Joker's skill set. Jamal Murray is a great mid-range shooter. Damn good mid-range shooter. One of the better tough shot makers. He's great coming off pick and roll. He's great. That's to Joker's skill set, which is why this team is built the way it's built. Right? That's why this team is built the way it's built. to cater to what Joker is good at. If you built this team around Joker and you had a bunch of guys standing around watching who don't cut to the basket, can't really finish that well around the rim, stand around the long ball line, you're not gonna expand Joker. You're not gonna get everything that you can. You're not gonna get everything that you can out of Joker. You're not, up the strength that you're not maximizing Joker's skill set. So you got to have dive guys. You got to have slashers. You got to have long ball shooters. You got to have a primary ball handler that's good coming off pick and roll, who can pass. You got to have these kind of things. Now, moving forward with SGA, that unit is built around his skill set. Which, by the way, I want to get to the bottom of something because Ron and I had an argument about what Jimmy Butler has done, like what Jimmy Butler did with that Miami Heat in terms of lesser talent. I think Oklahoma City is going to the finals this year. And with the lesser talent that they have. Well, let's be clear about one thing. You guys are quick to talk about Miami Heat's less than talent. I did not hear Lou Dort's name on draft night. I didn't. No, I did not. Not only did I not hear Lou Dort's name on draft night, Aaron Wiggins was picked the same number as Bronny James. The same number as Bronny James. That's 4 guys from not getting drafted. 4 of them. Jalen Williams was picked number 12 in the first round. J-Dub, by the way. He was picked number 12 in the first round. Just so you know, Bam was 2 picks behind that. Tyler Hero was 1. I think he was 13. So when they built that unit around SGA's skill set. He's their franchise player. So they built that unit around his skill set. Same logic with the Milwaukee Bucks. They built that unit around Giannis' skill set to enhance who Giannis is. And it worked. It worked. If Middleton doesn't break down when Middleton breaks down in the 21-22 season, I think Milwaukee wins it again. I do. I don't think that they get to the finals against the Golden State Warriors. I think they smoke them. I don't think they beat Golden State. I think they smoke them. But I digress. What SGA is doing with that unit that is built around his skill set, what SGA is doing with this unit, and how much better they are around SGA's skill set, the one-on-one player he is, the defender that he is, the playmaker that he is, that enhances J-Dub, that enhances Lou Dort, that makes Wiggins better because when SGA has the ball, the attention that he attracts and how he's able to pass out of double teams, how he's able to get to the rim and finish. And when he gets to the rim, how that collapses the defense and leaves guys like Aaron Wiggins wide open and Lou Dort wide open. Now, sure, these guys got to get in the lab and they got to get their game correct. And they did that. But when I think about statistically, like I just told you about Joker, 30, 13, and 9.9, which is 30, 13, and 10 on ridiculous efficiency. When I think about a guy doing that, I think that that's fantastic. But also, I have to equate what SGA is doing with the all-time greats too, because 30 plus, 5, 2 steals, and a block. Jordan did that. He was the league MVP when he did that. Dwayne Wade did that. I think he finished second in league MVP votes in 2009. Some of you tell me Wade should have won it that year. You would be wrong, right? I think you'd be wrong because I think that James that year, I don't think it was a question that he was the league MVP for everything that he did for that crew. However, with everything that both of those guys, both Jordan and Wade did, and we're talking about something. And by the way, I think Dwayne Wade was an all-league defender that year too. I think Dwayne Wade I'm pretty confident Dwayne Wade was an all-league defender that year. So if that's the case, if SGA, considering what he's done, 30 plus, 5'5", 2 steals and a block. If he ends up making an all-league defensive team and wins the league MVP, that's historical. That is historical. And he's not robbing, right? He's not robbing Joker of the league MVP, kind of like what y'all told me last year when y'all told me that Joker robbed him. Right? When y'all told me that Joker robbed him. Okay, first of all, they were both in first place. They were both tied for first place. We'll start there. Number two, Joker's the best player on the planet. He didn't rob anybody. And Blanco, I feel the same way about you, brother. I feel the exact same way about you. Anyway, he didn't rob him. So with that, right? With that, I'm thinking about how much SGA has affected winning this season on that crew. On that crew, with the guys that he has, how much has he affected winning? I mean, we're through the halfway mark of the season. They've won 36 games, right? We're through the halfway mark of the season, and they've won 36 games. They're on pace to win 70 games this year. 70. Right? They played 43 games so far. So we're already halfway through the season. Right? We're already halfway through the season. They played 43 games. How much has he affected winning? When he's on the floor, more times than not, they win. When he's not, they don't. And he hasn't missed a lot of games this year. He has not missed a lot of games this year. But then when I think about Giannis, what my issue with not the voters, but my issue with the masses, like, we ain't talking about Giannis like we should be. We're not talking about Giannis Antetokounmpo like we should be. We should be talking about him way different. Giannis had a career year last year, and he's doing something similar this year. Yo, he went 35 and 16 a couple of nights ago, and it was a yawn fest. Like none of you guys even spoke about it. You guys didn't say anything. Giannis is scoring on great efficiency. He's their best defender. He's their best rebounder. This team, they did dig themselves in a hole, and they dug themselves out of it. No doubt about that. And I think that they're, if I'm not mistaken, I think that they're two. Yeah, they 3 games out the 3 spot. They're 3 games out of the 3 spot. Right? 3 games. So what up, Penn? They're 3 games out of the 3 spot. With them being 3 games out of the 3 spot, Giannis carries a heavy load for this group. With the amount of stuff that he has to do as one of their better as after Damian Lillard, I think he's their second best passer. He's their best rebounder. He's their best player. He's their best scorer. There's some he's their best finisher. So he's their best transition player. I mean, I can go on, and all of this stuff is translated to wins. All of it has, which I care about more than anything. I care about this. So, and I have such a difficult time. And this is not about you out of pocket. I have such a difficult time with people who, and me and my man Tony Tone got into this argument. I have a difficult time with the voter fatigue logic. And the reason why I got a difficult time with it is because these guys are still coming in second. They're still coming in second and third. Like when I think voter fatigue, I think that you're not getting voted for. That's what I think when I think voter fatigue. I don't think voter fatigue when they're still voting for you. And you end up finishing second. That's not voter fatigue. That's people who are still recognizing how awesome you are, but are making it their business to recognize how awesome this guy is. And what you've done as a player has now become ho-hum. It's not voter fatigue. It's now become ho-hum. So when Giannis goes 28, 12, 6 assists, and a block, that's Giannis. Giannis has same thing with Joker. You know, when Joker goes the years that Joker won the league MVP, his numbers were almost identical. He was like 26, 12, and 8. This season, he's at 30, 13, and almost 10. And by the way, SGA, that 31 and a half a game, that's good enough for number 1 in the league today. Excuse me, that's good enough for number 1 in the league today. He's leading the league in scoring. So he's leading the league in scoring. Fantastic on the defensive side of the ball. On arguably the best team in the NBA. It's going to be hard to keep that league MVP away from him, in my estimation. It's going to be really hard. And that does not mean, I want to make sure that I'm clear on this. That doesn't mean that he's the best player in the league. Because I'm not sure. I'm not going to say I'm not sure. I don't think that there's a better player in the league than Joker. I just feel like the gap has closed from what it was last year. I think last year with Joker, I felt like there was a considerable gap between him and everybody else. I didn't think that it was Joker, then it was SGA, or it was all of these other guys. It was Embiid. I didn't feel like it was that. I felt like it was Joker, then it was everybody else. I feel like where we are today, I feel like it's Joker, Giannis, SGA, and the gap isn't that far now. I don't think, and I want to make sure that I preface this when I tell you, I don't think that SGA is a better player than Giannis. I don't think that, no. But I do think that this season, the kind of season that he's having, I think he's affecting winning more than what Giannis is. I think he's affecting winning a little bit more than what Giannis is doing. I think about what those guys do on defense. I think about how they speed the game up, how SGA shoots gaps, how he plays in the passing lane. I talk to the fellas about this. I think I'm in the minority. I think SGA is a damn good on-ball defender. I don't think he's Alex Caruso good. I don't think he's Drew Holiday good. I'm not going to say that. I'm not gonna go that far. But I think he's a damn good on-ball defender. I think that he's smart. He beats guys to spots. He's really good with his hands. At 6'6", he doesn't die on plays. He's really good at recovering. I don't think that he's the on-ball defender that Alex Caruso is. I can make an argument that Alex Caruso is the best on-ball defender in the game. As good as Lou Dort is, as good as Drew Holiday is, I can make the argument Alex Caruso is the best on-ball defender in the game. How physical he is, his anticipation, beating guys to spots, his hands, how he disrupts rhythm. I think that Alex Caruso has a legit argument for being the best on-ball defender in the game. But I want to hear from you guys. Hold on for a second. I do. I want to hear from you guys about this MVP race. What do you guys think? That's what I want to know. What up?
Yo, what up, Chill? What's going on?
What up?
I can't complain, man. What's going on with you?
I'm good,
I don't know, man. I think it's tough, and I think you pointed it out really good as to where guys get penalized for being like great and elite over a time. We saw it with Westbrook after like his second triple-double season. I feel like Jokic got robbed last year by Embiid because like to average a triple-double as a center and then, for Denver to be in the hunt like it was, I just felt like it was, I guess as you call it, voters fatigue as to why they gave it to Embiid. And I think, again, this year is why SGA get in. But, I give SGA more credence this year because they're probably going to be the best team, have the best record in the league all over, right?
If I think about what Joker did, and I think I'm in the minority when I say this. There were some conversations if Joker wins the league MVP for the third straight year that some people weren't prepared to have. Some uncomfortable conversations that people weren't ready to have. See, it's different having this conversation about Joker if he wins the league MVP 3 times in 4 years. If he wins it 4 times in 5 years. If he wins the league MVP 3 years in a row,
Yeah.
wins the NBA championship, wins the finals MVP, we got to start talking about him different. And there's some people in the media in particular, they ain't ready to have that conversation.
Yeah.
So instead, what they do is, Joel Embiid led the league in scoring 3 straight years. Philadelphia has been really good when he's been within the lineup. I don't think it was a pity MVP. That burns me when I hear that about Joel Embiid.
No, but I didn't say pity. I'm not saying
I don't
pity.
mean you. I don't mean
okay.
you. I don't mean you. But that makes me nuts when I hear people say it was here, have this. I was like, wait a minute. Let's not act like Joel Embiid wasn't awesome. Let's not do that. But I think that there were some conversations that some people weren't ready to have. That's why Joel Embiid won the league MVP. It was easy. It was less difficult to give it to him than it was to give to Joker in 2022.
Yeah, but I don't. I think after this year, though, I don't think Joker is like in the hunt anymore. After this, for real, it's going to be extremely difficult because, and like mind you, I think like say SGA is playing out of his mind. OKC came out of nowhere, even though last year, you know what I mean. Last year they had a great season, but I don't think anyone expected OKC to be as good as they are. You feel me?
Sure.
And like you said, leading the league in scoring and playing like he's playing. I saw you guys had a conversation about, they put him in the Kobe conversation, which he's solid, but come on, let's not get out of hand. But yeah, I can
actually fantastic. The reason why I brought it up to the fellas, because I'm one of those people who I like to put small fires out because they're gonna turn into something else.
Oh no, I know y'all. I watched it. Y'all did the right thing.
Let's nip this in the bud right now because it's gonna turn into something else, and I'm not trying to hear it.
Exactly, man.
I'm not. So let's get to the bottom of this right now because it's gonna turn into something else, and then in 6 months, y'all dudes gonna take years off my life, and I'm not trying to hear it. So let's get to the bottom of that right now. Let's do it.
That's wisdom, man. Because I can't stand these people that only know more about 2K ratings than the actual basketball they watch. You know what I mean? It's just crazy.
Now,
I think
since you brought up Joker, right? Since you brought up Joker this season, right? I think that if he wins it this season, I think that's it. I don't think he wins it again.
Oh yeah, either or. I think it's on both ends. If he doesn't win it all this season, I really can't see him wanting the effort or whatever, or the team having the need. And two, I think, to go a little bit deeper, if Denver doesn't make it at least to the Western Conference Finals, I think they move on. Not necessarily from Joker, but they definitely, have
go
a big
different direction with
different direction. Yeah. So but yeah, I think either or for Joker this year, this is like his last, big hurrah for it, I think.
Well, let me ask you this. If they end up, let's say he doesn't win it this year, and then next year he has a damn good year where, I don't know, let's say I don't think this is the standard for Joker, right? I don't think 30, 13, and 10, because remember when he won it, he was like 26 and 12. So
that's what I'm saying.
So like to go 30, 13, and 10, for him to not win it, the voters may look at him like next year. Let's say he goes, I don't know, let's say he goes 27, 13, and 8, and Denver's at the top of the Western Conference again. And these other guys may end up having, I'm not going to say subpar seasons, but seasons that weren't
as good as their peaks. I got you. Yeah,
I think we're looking at Joker win. I think we're looking at Joker maybe winning it again. But I will say this to you, fantastic. He wins another one. That's it. He ain't winning no more.
Yeah, and I'm still more on the first side. Like this year, win or lose is pretty much it for him, I think. Because after this, like you said, that starts bringing up a whole different conversation, and then there's a lot of politics, like you said, to that. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm looking at your screen name, and just so you know, I was around when this was going on, and when they started the Bryant Jordan conversations, it was conversations that people weren't ready to have.
Exactly.
So instead of actually nipping this in the bud, you know what we're gonna do? Yo, Kobe's a jack off. Kobe's really not. He's a ball hog. He's doing everything to tear his game down instead of recognizing how awesome he is.
Exactly.
And
the only player they've consistently done that to, even like to this day, man. Kobe's the most disrespected GOAT level player, but that's another show, man. I ain't gonna get into that.
I know what you're talking about, brother. Good to talk to you, though. Absolutely,
you too.
My man.
Appreciate it all the way.
What up?
Yo, what up, Chill?
Yo, what's up, brother?
What up? What up? Yeah, with the MVP, I always love the MVP discussions, and I feel like if they started the NBA, if they started giving the MVP to the best player on the best team, even though it wouldn't always be the best player in the league that year, I think that would help the league because I think that would motivate players to play. Because like now, when you got guys that get the number one seed in the league
Yep.
and they don't win MVP and then they don't win a championship, we always forget those years because it didn't matter. And it's like the number one seed doesn't matter. And I mean, I'm cool with that. But if the number one seed doesn't matter, then what's the point of 82 games? Because with the Tatum year last year, even though I was upset like after midway, and I told you I was like I think Tatum should be MVP. But once he lost that game to Jokic, it was like his MVP case was done. But
Yeah.
we still had like 30 more games left. But
Right.
what's the point of me watching those 30 Celtics games when I know that Tatum's not going to win MVP and he pretty much has the first team All NBA locked up? So, but if he would have won MVP, I think that would have helped. Like that would have helped players that's in competition with him because now they're trying to win to get that first seed, so they can win MVP. And the MVPs that I had the most problem with is the Russell Westbrook MVP. I think
Yep.
that year that should have been Curry's third straight MVP, and that
Mm.
makes sense because he'd already won back to back. If Curry would have won MVP, that makes sense of his career because he went on to win two more championships, and then we would be Curry would be in more higher guard, which he deserved it because he would have been a three-time MVP and he would have been a four-time champion. And then
So keep going, keep going, keep
what were you
going,
saying? What were you
keep
saying?
going, keep going. No, keep
Oh
going.
yeah, and then the year I think it was the year Jokic won. I think Devin Booker should have MVP, even though the year the Suns won 60 something games. And I think was that the year after they went to the finals when they had
Yeah, it
won
was
like
in 22.
yeah
In
I
22.
think he
They won
should have
65. They won 65
won
games that year.
65 games. I think
Yeah.
he should have won MVP that year, even though
Hmm.
they got disappointed in the
Conference
was it
semis.
the
They lost to
conference
Dallas.
series. That was still a
Hmm.
great year. Like that 65 games, he should have got
Hmm.
rewarded for that. But I think once you win 65 games and you don't get an MVP and you don't make it far in the playoffs, that's a lot of games. I think that does something to you mentally, and it kind of like shifts your focus on what you want to focus on throughout your career. Like
Well,
now, it's not about the regular season no more. Now, I just want to make sure, I want to play certain games that matter to get my stats up. But if I'm playing a sorry team, I don't want to play this game because this game doesn't matter towards my accolades.
two things. One, the idea of giving the league MVP to the best player on the best team. At least we'd have a criteria that's solid. Okay, we all know that winning matters, right? So Joker in 22 and Russell Westbrook in 17, those two things were anomalies. The majority of league MVPs have been guys on teams that host playoff series. So top three seeds. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, Moses won it in 81. They were the fourth seed. But other than that, and outside of Russ and outside of Joker, the majority of the guys who won league MVP have been at the top of the league. That's what's been going on. But to give it to Curry, I mean, I think that one was setting a bad precedent, and they were never going to give it to Curry off the strength that KD jumped on the roster
But
and what KD
what
was
was the problem
what
with that
KD
though?
was
He
doing.
still had good stats, and didn't they win 65 games or something like that, or
Yeah, no,
62?
they won 67 games that year.
67 games, chill.
Yeah,
And
they
you
won
telling me
60. Yeah,
because a guy jumped on his crew, he shouldn't have won MVP?
yeah, they won 67 games that year, and the media looked at it. It's not that difficult for him to be it's not that difficult for Curry. In fact, not only is it not that difficult, it enhances Curry that KD is on the crew, as opposed to what Russ was doing. I personally think that it was either James or Harden who should have won the league MVP that year. Because for what James Harden was doing in 17 was fantastic in Houston. He was phenomenal in Houston. The bucket getter that he was, the offensive force that he was, and what Russ was doing. My issue with what Russ did was they predicated on him averaging a triple double. That was a bad precedent because now you got to stick with that because he ended up averaging a triple double 3 more times, which means he should have been the league MVP 3 more times after that. So I think that they made a mistake in that aspect. But if you want to say that the league MVP is the best player on the best team, that tells me, because it's the same thing in football. It's the best player on the best team. That tells me that we have a criteria. And to your point, guys are going to be striving for that to get to the number one seed, because in order for me to get to the number one seed, I got to play. And 65 games ain't enough. I got to play almost every night. If I'm not playing every night, I got to play almost every night. I'm probably going to have to play close to 75 games if that's the criteria. If it's the best player on the best team. If I'm trying to get to the number one seed, even the number two seed, I'm going to have to play almost every night. And if we're adding in other things like how valuable you are to your team's success, how good is your team without you on the floor, all of that stuff matters. However, if we're talking about you being the number one seed, we at least have a concrete criteria. All the other stuff now is now up for interpretation.
Right, and I feel like it's gonna look off some years, but I think it's gonna help the league because it's gonna give guys a reason to play. Even though like some years you may have an MVP that's not as good as previous winners, I think that's still gonna help the league. And like the only other MVP I think I have a problem with is Nash's second MVP. I agree with the first one, but I was looking over it and I was like, well, dang, who could have won MVP that year? Because they didn't want to give it to Duncan because he only averaged like 18 a game.
Nope.
And then the Pistons had won like 60 something games, and I'm like, well, dang, their best player only averaged like 18 something points.
Mm-hmm.
But I still think you can give it, even if it's going to be it's going to be an anomaly. I still think one of those two teams should have had the MVP.
Now remember, Steve Nash in 2006, he didn't have Stoudemire the whole season in that nightmare of a Western
like
Conference.
stuff like that, I don't think that kind of stuff should matter in the MVP vote.
Why?
Because think about it. If that means now I don't want to play on a great team because that's going to hurt my chances of winning. You get what I'm saying? Like now I don't want to play. I don't want to play with other great players now because that might hurt my chances of winning MVP.
No, actually, I do want to play with great players. The fact that I don't have a great player means that I'm gonna have to do more in order for us to get to where we're trying to go. That's not gonna extinguish me from playing with great players in the future. No, it's just that I'm gonna have to do more now that I don't have my best player. And it shows that when I don't have a great player, I can win the league MVP if I do more. But that doesn't mean that I don't want to play with great players. Nah, that doesn't mean that at all. But Classic, it's good to talk to you, brother. I appreciate you.
All right, man. You have a good one.
Yes, sir. That doesn't mean that I don't want to play with great players, because I feel like everybody wants to play with great players. No doubt about that. And I mean, who doesn't, right? Who doesn't want to play with great players? I mean, I think that guys want to 100% play with great players. Hell yes, they do. 100% they want to play with great players. So, and that wasn't Joker's. That wasn't his first MVP. So MPJ played in 21. It was Murray who tore his knee up. He lost MPJ the next season. He lost MPJ in 22 for virtually the whole season. So with that, right? With that being said, we got some good action tonight. And again, I don't want to get off. I don't want to get away from how good Oklahoma City has been as a team. I don't want to get away from how good Denver has gotten. Because like I said, I think they've won 8 of their last 9 games. They've won 8 out of 10, including 8 of their last 9 games. I think that they're 2 games. Yeah, they're 2 games. I think they're 2 games. Yeah, they're 2 games out the 2 spot. They're on an 8 game. They're on a winning streak right now. So I don't want to discount and just like I don't want to discount what Milwaukee is doing, right? Milwaukee's won 4 straight, and they've won 7 of their last 10 games, if I'm not mistaken. The problem with Milwaukee is they're under 500 if I'm not mistaken, they're under 500 on the road. I mean, that's a recipe for disaster right there. Like you have in my estimation, in order to be in this conversation, and not just be in this conversation, but to be legit in this conversation, you got to win on the road, Joe. You have to. You have to win on the road. That's why I don't think it's a conversation when people talk to me about Dwayne Wade in 2008, 2009. Like, I don't think that's a conversation. I don't. For what James did that year in 08, 09, I don't think it's a conversation at all. And I won't to be honest with you, I don't entertain it. If I look at the Nuggets schedule coming up, right? If I look at the Denver Nuggets schedule coming up these next 10 games, right? If I look at the Denver Nuggets schedule coming up these next 10 games and see what kind of because today is the 23rd. So the Nuggets, we are, let's see, I think we're a little under a month away from the All-Star break. A little under a month away from the All-Star break. So they play Sacramento tonight. They play Minnesota Saturday. And then they got Chicago, who they should beat. They're in New York. They got Philly, who they should beat. Charlotte, who they should beat. New Orleans, who they should beat. New Orleans again, who they should beat. Orlando on Thursday, December 6th. These are their next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. These are the next 12 games up until the All-Star break. So they got Sacramento tonight. That's going to be a dogfight. Sacramento's been rolling. I think Sacramento's won 9 of the last 10 games. They rolling. That's going to be a dogfight. I'm not sure how they're going to fare in that one. I'm not. I love what Sacramento is doing, but what Denver is doing with Joker, I think they can beat Sacramento. I'm not sure, but I think they can beat Sacramento. They go to Minnesota on Saturday. They should beat Minnesota Saturday afternoon. Then on Monday, they play Chicago. They should beat Chicago. Then they go to New York on Wednesday of next week. That's going to be a tough one. I think that they lose in New York. Friday, they play the Sixers. I think they beat Philly. Saturday, next Saturday, they play Charlotte. They should beat them. They come home. They play New Orleans back-to-back Monday and Wednesday. They should win both of those games. Then they got Orlando coming in. I think they beat Orlando. So of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games, I think they win 8 of them. I think they win 8 of those next 9 games. Then they go to Phoenix. I think they go to Phoenix and they beat them. They got Portland back-to-back at home right before the All-Star break. I only see them, of this schedule of their next 12 games, I only see them losing 1 game. That's against the Knicks. I only see them losing 1 game. With that being said, right? With that being said, when I look at Oklahoma City's schedule, when I look at what Oklahoma City has going on, Oklahoma City has been rolling as of late, right? Oklahoma City has been rolling as of late. And by the way, SGA averages 30 a game on a 15-game winning streak. It's only 3 guys that did that. Curry did it, James Harden did it, and Jordan did it. And all 3 of those guys won the league MVP. With that being said, Oklahoma City schedule up until the All-Star break, which is the 12th of February, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 games. They got 11 games. And I'm looking at Oklahoma City schedule. They got Dallas tonight. They got Dallas at home tonight. They should beat them. Portland Sunday in Portland. They should go up there and beat them. From there, they play the Warriors on Wednesday. I think they beat them. They got Sacramento at home. I think they beat Sacramento. They got Milwaukee next Monday at home. That's going to be a tough one. I think Milwaukee beats them. Phoenix, I think they beat Phoenix. Toronto, I think they beat Toronto. At Memphis, I think they can lose that game. That's a game I think that they could lose. New Orleans, they should beat them. Miami, at home, they should beat them. And at Minnesota. So of these 12 games, I think they lose 2 of them. I think that they lose 2 of these games. So Oklahoma City, their strength of schedule is looking. Their strength of schedule is looking. Their next amount of games that they have coming up is looking pretty. It's looking pretty tough. But I think that they can handle it because of the teams that they play as of today. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Half of them are playoff teams. Half of them are playoff teams. So they should be able to handle that. So we'll see. We will see. I didn't look at Milwaukee's schedule, which I'm gonna do that right now because I'm wondering if Milwaukee can make up some ground. Because if I look at what Milwaukee has over the next 3 weeks, right? If I'm looking at what Milwaukee has over the next 3 weeks, they got Miami at home tonight. They should beat them. And then they go on a 6-game West Coast road trip. They're at the Clippers on Saturday. They should beat Utah. They should beat Portland. They should beat San Antonio. They got Memphis at home. I think that they beat them. Oklahoma City, I think that's going to be a tough one. Charlotte, they should beat them. Atlanta, that's going to be a tough one also. Philly at home. Golden State at home, they should beat them. And at Minnesota. So of their 12 games, I think that they have a potential to lose 3 of them. So they should be able to make up some ground too. Right? They should be able to make up some. Milwaukee should be able to make up some ground, and Denver definitely with their schedule that they have. I mean, playing New Orleans at home twice, they should definitely be able to make up some ground. And keeping guys healthy, they should definitely be able to make up some ground. Because this MVP race, right? This MVP race is going to come down to wins. I'm almost certain in that. This MVP race is going to come down to wins. And last season, with SGA, with what he did, it meant a lot. If Denver can make up some ground, I think we're going to have a really interesting MVP conversation. I already think it's close as it is, right? I already think it's close as it is, but if Denver can make up some more ground and they can snatch one of them top 2 seeds in the West, woo, man. And same thing with Milwaukee. If Milwaukee can make up some ground, if they can make up some ground and they could get, I already had Milwaukee in that 3rd spot. I'm sorry, in the 4th spot. Right? I already had them in that 4th spot. So if they can make up some ground and get one of them top 3 seeds, yes, sir. 100%. But TGK says Joker beat SGA without Gordon and Murray. Okay. He 100% did that. And we could talk about that. Yes, we can definitely talk about that. So, but he had and Russ was playing really well. Let's not act like Russ isn't fantastic. Let's not act like Russ isn't one of the better league guards in the game. Let's not do that. And it's interesting that if Chet was in the game, I mean, that was early in the season. Teams are playing way different today than they were playing. I mean, what was that, game 3? Are you telling me that are you telling me Denver's the same team in game 3 that they are today? Do you want to talk about that? I bet you don't want to talk about that. Just like you don't want to talk about your Dallas Mavericks. You think y'all the same team right now that you're going to be in 2 months? You want to talk about that? I bet you don't want to talk about that. You can't bring me them beating them. You can't bring me them beating Oklahoma City in game 2 when the season just started. The Celtics blew the Knicks out in game 1. Is that the same Knicks team from opening night? Then today? I don't think so. No, I don't. No, you don't want to talk about that. That's a very disingenuous argument. Very much so. So, with that being said, right? With that being said, and the MVP has nothing to do with the playoffs, TGK. And this is why I don't have conversations with goofies like you. This is why I don't do that. Get your ass out of here. Speaking of getting out of here, it's about that time for me. It's about that time for me, ladies and gentlemen. It was good to see you guys tonight. I had a great time. I will see you guys again soon. Until then, put on a suit, drink water, don't drink and drive. Hey, man, call your mother. When last time you talked to your mother? Call your mother. I will talk to you guys soon. But until then, take it light. But take it. Absolutely, man. It was good to see you guys tonight. I really enjoyed this, no doubt.